Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Paulus Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Paulus Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Paulus Krause, and today I have Sheri Filsinger here with us. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I've never said it out loud just until then, so I wanted to make sure. How are you, Sheri? Welcome.
I'm good. So nice to be here. Thank you, Tina.
Yeah. I'm excited to have you on the podcast because when we talk about leadership, right? Leadership is it's an end game. It's an inner game. It's about rising in your leadership. And we're going to talk today about your book. And your book is titled, Nobody Told Me It Would Be This Hard, Navigating Life with Adult Kids. And so I want you to just introduce yourself. And we get to dig into the book. So welcome.
Okay. Thank you. As Tina said, my name is Shari Filsinger. I am a certified mental wellness coach, and I like to call myself a empty nest coach because I've dealt with that with my own adult kids. I have two adult kids, 26 and 29. I never knew where this would lead, and never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd write a book because I never liked writing.
Yeah. And I think anyone who is an empty nester, as you say, right? Empty nest means all of a sudden we have no kids and we're staring at our partner. If we have a partner going, now what? Right. And I love that you wrote a book about it because, it's a scary time. It's a weird time. You have this identity before kids, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to let these kids go and do their own life. And like, who am I today? So talk to us a little bit about what prompted you to write this.
I think the biggest thing is my challenging relationship with my daughter, who's very independent, who left home at 18 and has never moved back, except maybe for little brief periods of time, which is very much a blessing because I think our relationship is so much better. I had my son close when he went to college, 20 minutes away at the university, and my daughter made the decision she wanted to get away. And as hard as it is to say goodbye, it's been a learning curve for me because I grew up in a very codependent household, and my daughter is not codependent, and she's made that known many times. So her journey through college and into grad school, and now in the process of moving farther away, I started journaling my emotions because she has never been one to, let's just go back. I'm very empathetic. And I also heard the term of a highly sensitive person. And so that's me. And you can imagine with somebody who's very not that way. And then I want to have people acknowledge me. And I wasn't getting that from my daughter. So anyway, lots of emotions, lots of challenges. Fortunately, I have a great supportive husband. Doesn't always get me, but he tries. And friends who know what it's like. Daughters specifically are just hard. I had my own challenging relationship with my own mom. She always said to me, I hope you end up with a daughter like you have been to me. And I definitely did. I would say when Abby got to 7th grade, she kind of went to the dark side and only recently came back. She's almost 26. So probably in the last year and a half, she's become more of she's always been a good human, but you know what I mean? It's been hard.
Yeah, they're trying to grow up, right, Sheri?
Right.
They're trying to find their independence and trying to find their way. And for me, in reading your book, control came out a lot, right? And I'm a control freak myself, and so we try and control that experience and control what's happening, and that just makes it even worse, right?
Well, and it's hard because you go from having almost complete control, and then, as I say, in the book, they go through these stages and of letting go. But you never actually think you're going to get to that point. And when you do, it's like the day we took my son to college, it's the funniest thing. he was a soccer player and he was known for leaving his dirty laundry in the washing machine without starting it. And I'll never forget, I came home after dropping him off, opened the washing machine and immediately started sobbing because why? Like,
Yeah.
but I knew he was 20 minutes away. And when they move multiple states away and you don't have any control, any say, it's literally life-changing, especially when the second one leaves and you're just so used to having that conversation with your husband or your significant other because they're always part of it. So you go from having all this stuff to nothing. And so when my daughter relocated she's in Missouri now in St. Louis, it still has its challenges, but I have learned to keep my mouth shut, to just ask lots of questions that aren't too probing and deep. And she'll tell me when she wants to talk, and we're at that point now, but journaling led me to, and I'm hoping in the next year to be able to release, it's like a devotional journal, and that was going to be my first book release until this one came up. That's where it all started because I was writing in a journal and I started reading it and I was like, wow, I really can write. I'm gonna maybe think of this. Yeah, so I hired a writing coach, and unfortunately it didn't really work out because we were two totally different ends of the spectrum with personality. But if through that, I felt like I had to push myself to actually make this happen. And I feel like it's weird. It's like, yeah, it doesn't have the best sales, but it's out there, and it's huge when you see your name like there. It's like, wow. But it has improved my relationships with both my kids, and my daughter for the first time has learned how to say I'm sorry. And yeah, and how to thank me and to say I love you. Those are big things that she didn't know how to say for a long time.
And I think on the flip side of it, right? Like on the flip side of it, my guess, I'm going to read a quote from your book because it leads right into this. But my guess is, yes, she's learned how to do that, but she's done that because you've learned how to communicate with her and you guys have learned how to communicate together. And because you've grown as well. And so I want to read this quote that's at the end of your first chapter that was just like, kind of a thing. So the quote is, it's not only children who grow, parents do too. As much as we watch to see what our children do with their lives, they are watching us to see what we do with ours. I can't tell my children to reach for the sun. All I can do is reach for it myself, which was like, it's so powerful. So talk about like, where was that moment when you realized that and you realized that like, oh, I get to grow as well through this?
I think when I finally realized, because my son has been out of high school just over, well, almost 11 years, that it's okay to like congratulate yourself for what you did, even though it wasn't easy. I mean, no parent comes out of it unscathed with something.
True. Yeah.
We all have stuff. And I think but prior, back, my son graduated in 2013, I think everybody was always trying to be so perfect, and no family is perfect. And I think when I finally reached the point, even in my own life with my own history, my own trauma, that, I did a decent job, I'm not saying like all kids should go to college. Not everybody's meant to. My kids did. They graduated college. They got decent jobs. They're fortunately in a specialty. They're both engineers, so they're very specialized. It's just like an opportunity to like say, job well done. And that's what I find. I'm talking to other parents who are like struggling because they don't have that control anymore. And when your kids can leave, that's a huge accomplishment because so many kids can't. They either struggle with mental health issues, confidence, they don't know what they want to do. And I'll be honest, I struggled for a long time, but I never wanted to live at home because of my family history. I knew I wanted to like be on my own, but it took me a long time to like feel confident. At times I kind of wish I could go back to my 20s and do over, even though I love where I'm at now, but you know what I mean? If you
Sure, absolutely.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a big lesson for parents. I mean, I know it was for me too in my own growth journey. like, because we're not supposed to control them, like whether they're in the house or out of the house, like we get this control that happens over time when really the empowerment piece is like, that was a big, like, oh yeah, I get to empower my kids, not control them kind of a thing. And so talk to us a little bit about how you went from, okay, I'm controlling you to, okay, now I get to empower you. Like, what does that stage look like?
It's been a journey. I mean, it's been a long journey of ups and downs. And the one thing I'll say is like going through the hard times with our kids, for me, a mistake I made when my daughter was going back to California in it would have been around 2017, and she wanted to take her vehicle. And so I'm like, oh, this will be a great opportunity for a mother-daughter trip. Well, you can imagine how that was. She was
She's
19.
like, that's not my vision, mom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So as hard as it was, like there was a point it was so bad. I had to say, and she was in California, and I had to say, drop me off at the corner. I'm going to find a car and go to the airport because I was feeling bullied, and being an empath, that's so hard. So going
Yeah.
through that and going through other issues that have happened, and then just digging deep and like knowing that this life that my kids are living is about them, not me. I didn't want my mom telling me what to do when I was 19, 20, 25, whatever. And
Mhm.
that's the thing. It's like I always tell parents, put yourself in their shoes. We have instant communication now. When I was growing up, we had to call collect if we were long distance. And how did our parents not worry about us?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's a totally different way. And I mean, I think that instinct, so let's talk about communication, because communication does it, it's not always effective. And that control is part of that ineffective communication. And so what does it look like when we let go of the control? Like like when if today I decide to let go of control, what does that mean?
It's not easy, but it's benefits. I feel so both whoever's involved, it benefits both parties. I feel like just if they don't, just like with us, if we don't make mistakes, we don't learn. If we continue doing the same thing over and over, that's a problem. But if we make a mistake and change and pivot, that's growth. So if they make mistakes, and trust me, I mean, my daughter has made plenty of mistakes, but she's grown and she knows. And the biggest thing for me is forgiveness. Like I can't hold things against her because I've made mistakes.
Sure.
I think it's just trusting
Yeah.
them and being there when they need us. And
Yeah.
it's their life. And they know, as long as they know we're there for them without throwing guilt. And that's another thing, like I've learned, you don't want to say, "Oh, I wish you'd come home. I miss you so much." Because that's about me. I just, be great to see you, whatever your schedule is. Love to see you whenever you come. I'll always
Yeah.
be available. But then they also know like they're kind of proud of me now. So it makes me feel like, wow, I'm actually like doing something to make my kids proud.
Right. I think with me and my daughter, because I read your book and there's a lot of parallels
Mhm.
with my daughter and I in our journey. And I think we constantly were like this, right? Constantly like this. And it was because of my control. And she was trying to grow up and I was just controlling it and telling her how wrong she was and all the stuff. And I think what started so I'm saying this for anybody out there who has this relationship with a adult child. Like I think the only thing that started our healing journey was me recognizing the negative patterns that I had created, was me communicating and apologizing and like, let's just talk about this. I get that I was controlling, I'm letting all that go, and like making new commitments to her, right? And then once that happened and she could start seeing that be consistent, it started to change our relationship. So what were some of the things that you and your daughter kind of worked through to get to that point?
Well, I'm going to be really authentic about this. This just was recent. We both love country music and I love Nashville. And so I said, let's go to Nashville. So we planned it in mid-August. This was kind of like this was like an epiphany for me, but I think it really showed her like how my boundaries are up. So we had We're there for 2 days. She took her dogs. Not a good idea, but you know what? I'm not going to tell her what to do. Things weren't going the way she wanted them to go, and I was just trying to go with the flow. And sometimes when you don't like, she's like, I would say, what do you want to do? She goes, I don't know. What do you want to do? I would just, so to make a long story short, my poor husband got involved in it. I had driven. My daughter lives in St. Louis, 4 hours away. Friend of mine told me, you need to just leave because she's being so rude and inconsiderate. You need to just leave. So I gave her a choice. I said, I want to take you back, but I don't deserve this treatment. Got in my car, drove 9 hours home. Didn't hear from her. She had to rent a car. She had to get back by herself. And normally, I know you've experienced with your daughter too. Normally we wouldn't talk for a long time.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting it. 2 weeks later was Labor Day, and she was going to come home, and I was assuming she's not. A week after this happened, she texted me. She goes, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm glad you got home safely. 1 week. She came home the next weekend. It was wonderful. Because, and people would say, well, are you gonna like confront her on it? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not saying I wasn't at fault, but I wanted her to know, like, I don't want to be treated. I'm not saying I'm perfect and I didn't do something, but I'm like, I don't deserve.
We get to learn. Yeah. And it like, that was step one of you guys learning how to get to a new way of communicating, right? Because ultimately in those moments, the two of you could have sat down and go, look, I'm not cool with how this is going down. How can we create better? Right. And had a conversation in the moment. But like, you don't go from like, we don't talk, we can't communicate to that overnight. There has to be this practice.
Right.
Stuff that happens along the way. And so that was a beautiful step into it. But yeah, I mean, again, it's the control and it's the drawing the boundaries. You get to teach people how to treat you, right? Like that was a really great example of teaching someone your boundary. Like, I'm in this with you. I'm not perfect, but I also am going to draw a boundary right now that we get to just separate for right now because it's not working. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And with my son too, it's funny at the holidays, I sent him a text and I had mentioned something about some documentary I'd seen, and my son, we always said he should be either a politician or in sales because he's always got to prove his point, right? And he wants to be right, but he's speaking to a person who also wants to be right. But I've learned not arguing. And he was trying to do that. And I responded. I said, I respect that then, but I am not arguing. And he goes, you just want to be right. I said, no, I just don't want to argue. Let's talk about it when you come home. And it was fine. And for me, that's another thing. Like I don't have time for that. I dealt with that all
not going there.
years. No, my life is too valuable, and I don't need to be stressed over simple things that don't need to go that way.
Right. So talk about the ripple effect. And I don't know, the ripple, let me just kind of explain what I mean by the ripple. So the ripple is when you start showing up differently in your life, which is exactly what you're doing. You're showing up differently because you're growing and you're learning how to draw boundaries and communicate in a better way and all of that. And so that all takes time, right? Like that all takes planning and it takes time and stuff like that. And as you do that, there's a ripple effect. So talk about the ripple effect in your family of how it's changed the dynamics because you've been showing up differently.
It's just, we had an amazing holiday. I mean, it's the first time there was no like conflict.
Drama.
Yeah, I know. And I know you get this. So I always tell myself every time they leave, I'm not going to cry, but every time they leave, and it's not that I'm sad.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a good cry, right? There's memories. Cause then all of a sudden you're in your house and it's so quiet. I'm like, oh my God, this is so, yeah. So I know my kids knew, like when Ben went to college, like he knew, like I did not want to be that mom sitting just crying all the time because my kids were gone. And it's been a process over the last 10 years to finally feel like I'm coming into my true self through lots of work. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Right.
But I do know that when I look at my kids, I'm like, wow, they're really good people. You know, my son is so caring. His birthday was last week and he said, Mom, just donate to a food pantry. He's like,
Aw.
you know, he does well. He can afford whatever just like me. I'm like, I don't care about gifts. I just want to be with my family.
Yeah.
And whatever I don't have, I can buy myself. So just to hear those things and to hear, you know, my daughter's going through an interview process for a career change, and it's hard because, you know, she doesn't know, she has no control.
Mhm.
But she's handling things well, you know, like this guy was so nice and he said, you know, he'd do this, and it just makes me feel like instead of judgment, they're looking at, um, I don't know, just more compassion. And so if that, I
Mhm.
don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it does. I mean, because it does, because when you start to show up differently, you start to see different results. And that's exactly what you saw at Christmas. Like you saw it within your whole family. Like if I show up differently, like I don't have, and it doesn't mean that all the drama was yours, right?
Right.
It means that you're learning how to navigate through it. And so I think that that's beautiful. And that's the ripple effect, like being able to create those kinds of experiences for more than just you. I mean, we start with ourselves, like let's, but then it ripples out um into our, that's where generational healing happens. I always use my yelling and screaming as an example. My programming was yell and scream. I'd get so busy and bottled up, and all of a sudden I'd explode. And who got the brunt of it? My kids
Yeah.
or my partner,
Yeah.
and that's not fair. It's not fair to them. I don't want to be that person, but yet that's how I was showing up. And so now that I don't do that anymore, those kinds of things don't happen anymore. And so it's just that ripple effect is real.
Yep. Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
amazing. It's so awesome to hear like you say that. Not that it's just I thought like what's wrong with me as a parent when I think to how I parented,
Yeah.
and it was hard. I mean, and when those times happened, that was just a confidence killer. Because what did you do after? You're like, oh my God, what did I do
Oh,
this for?
I know. You go back and have blame and shame and pity, and then for me, that's when my enablement starts, because now I'm trying to make up for that explosion that I just had. So here, let me shower you with stupid gifts. Let
Yes,
me, like all
yes.
the icky stuff that comes with that, where today, like if it's on my heart and I'm feeling it, I'm talking about it. I'm asking somebody, I'm getting through it. I'm moving through it, because nobody deserves to sit in that. I call it sitting in a shitty diaper. Like I didn't come up with that. Karen Seltz came up with that, but like it is. I'm going to choose to sit in a shitty diaper and feel all this grossness, or I can choose to just go communicate or snap out of it or move out of it or do whatever I need to do that. But so often we stay in it. So I want to honor you, because like when you talk about your daughter and codependency,
Yeah.
like that's the ripple effect, breaking that codependency. You are maybe not the stop with the codependency, but she has certainly been the stop of
Right.
the codependency. And now you guys' relationship is back intact. There's, that won't continue to be an issue. So I want to honor you for that. I think that's
Thank you.
pretty amazing.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I
So,
grew up with that, and it never really struck a nerve until she brought it up one day, and she was talking about some family friends, and not in a negative way, but just like, Mom, they're so codependent. And then it started to hit me. I was like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, that is totally because of my husband and two kids. I'm totally the one that was codependent, but
Yeah.
yeah, just to grow out of that is a
Yeah. And
huge
even
thing.
just recognizing it,
Yeah.
codependency is huge with me as well and my family.
Yeah.
And like, when I was going through a coaching and some of my journey, like my coaches would be like, go to a restaurant by yourself, go sit at the bar by yourself, go to a movie by yourself. Like that's the work. That's the work that we do to get out of those patterns that are just automatic patterns for us. And so, yeah, that codependency is a real thing. So what advice, Sheri, if there's a parent that's listening that is getting ready to be an empty nester, or maybe somebody they're just now a brand new empty nester, like where do they even begin? What's the first step?
Um, to work on themselves. I find that find something that you possibly were passionate about in your past that you had to kind of put on the back burner.
Love that.
Build new friendships. If you're going to go back to work, if you're going to create your own business, people just don't realize like the possibilities nowadays that they have with being online. finding more time if they're married to spend time with your spouse, because relationships really struggle. And last week I heard somebody say that their son, who's now 24, she said, since he left for college and has now been out for 2 years, they've had 4 friends go through divorces. And honestly, if my husband and I can survive the pandemic in the same house,
It's true.
you know what I
It's not a
mean?
joke.
But you and I know it takes lots of work. It's not
Yeah.
easy. And so
Right.
working on that, and then self-care is huge. But I feel like, you know, depending on the relationship with their child, just boundaries. I mean, you need for yourself too, because it's so easy just to text all the time. And we have such instant, like, we want to know right away if we don't hear from them, like something's wrong. And my daughter has put the read receipt on her phone so she knows if I'm not looking, that she actually didn't see it, because she trusts me now, and she'll immediately respond once she sees it, which could be a day later. But
Yeah.
they have to be given the trust and the belief
Nice.
that they're
Yeah.
going to be okay. Because if they go out and you're always like hounding them for something, it's not going to work in your favor. And I read something the other day that really made me sad. I'm in these Facebook groups for empty nesters, and this woman, her kids were young. Her son was young and he just got married. He was 21, and they were living with his wife's family. And the family wants all the kids in the family to be on those like family tracking things, which I think is creepy. I know. And I'm like, no, my kids share the location when they're driving home, but that's it. I just want to make sure they're okay on the road in case something happens, but they have their own life wherever they're living. That's not about me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just think like for people that really don't know, the next step, it's coaching is huge. Meeting
Yeah.
with somebody, talking to somebody, find somebody that you resonate with, invest in yourself, because I tell people we invest in all other areas of our life, but we don't invest in
It's
ourselves.
so true. It's so true. And like, I mean, women are amazing creatures, you know, and we put everything into our kids, everything. And that's a
Right.
beautiful and amazing thing. And it's so real what happens. Okay, now the kids are gone and we sit there and we go, okay, well, now who am I? Like, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing with all my time? What does it look like? And so, like, you get to take yourself on,
Yeah.
right? Like, you get to take yourself on and figure out what's working and what's not working. And, you know, and when you do that and start focusing on that, it's like everything opens up, right? And you find out who you really are and what you
Right.
want and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
so what, you know, the name of the podcast is Your Leadership Legacy. So
Mhm.
if you think about the legacy that you're leaving, what's the intention?
I think number one is my kids to see the potential as older adults, you know, that life just doesn't have to end after the kids leave home, that it's just beginning, that there's so much out there in the world, and to make a difference is huge. So many young people nowadays get frustrated with their jobs because they feel like they're not making a difference. And that's where I struggle a lot of my life, is like I'm put in a box and I'm told to like do something a certain way, but to get out and do what makes you passionate, what brings you joy. The
It's a
other
big
part is
difference.
for the parents out there, who read, well, not just read my book, but any empty nesters. I have a friend who actually said this, on her review of my book, she's like, it's like you were writing this for me, because
Yeah.
she had just let her oldest go and now she's got a son that's 1 year behind. So it's hard, but to be prepared. And now she knows, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for me when my
Mhm.
next leaves home. So just to give them hope, and know that there's so much more ahead of, we only really get them for 18 years, sometimes
So
longer.
true.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's really all we're given.
Yeah.
And then this one book I read said, it's like your job ended. You kind of were fired from that job, and then you become like a mentor and a coach, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you say in the book, it's time to become their friend. Like,
right,
you
right.
know, that's when you be there. That's when that time
Yeah.
really happens. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Where can, actually, before I even go there, I want to talk about comparison, because something that you said, you have a whole chapter in this book about comparison. And so what I want to add to what you just said is that if anybody's listening out there, like, read the chapter on no comparison. There is no right or wrong way to do anything. The right way is what your gut is telling you. And so often we don't listen to that voice, that inner gut, that inner voice that's really telling us what we really want, because we're in fear of, we're in comparison, or we're in fear, and when all of a sudden, no, do what's right for you, and do what's right for your family, and communicate through it. And I think that will serve people in a great way. They're like, this whole comparison thing is ridiculous.
Well, and I find that, and I talk about social media, but I also feel like it's better. I would never want to go back to high school with my kids. That was the worst, especially with whatever they were involved in, and like how, So it is better now, because now I'm more comfortable with myself, and I just know the people I don't want in my life. And I've had to like step back from certain friendships, because I felt like it was all about like having the best of everything, and I don't want that. I just want to live in what makes me happy, not how big or fancy my house is.
Yeah. I really love that we're kind of we're in this time frame where, because like my whole life, it's been about consumption. Like, you consume, you work to buy the good stuff. And like, that whole icky, gross mentality, when it's really, when you kind of sink into, no, it's not about the material stuff. It's really about my relationships and what I'm creating and building in my life. It changes everything, for sure.
Yeah.
So Amazon. The book is on Amazon for sure. So go get the book on Amazon. Where else can people find you, Sheri?
Well, I am in the process of having a website. Hopefully we're close. My web developers got another job, so she had to go to work today, but we're close. So that'll be out soon. I'm on Facebook, Sheri Filsinger. My maiden name is Booth. I don't do a whole lot. I'm really trying to like just focus on my goals for the year. I'm on Instagram. I do have some groups. I have I think you're in one of my groups for the, nobody told me it would be this hard. And nobody really engages in that group, and I'm hoping people will, but I just like to share. Just like to share. That's all. And to encourage, because it's just,
sometimes it's just about holding the space.
Right. And I just want people to know that there are people out there that understand. And I think when they realize that, like, you might feel, because it is when your kids leave home and they don't know what to do, they don't feel like they have the same friends, and it is different. But I'm so blessed that I chose to get into a space 10 years ago where I was able to branch out and meet so many people this way. I still don't know how we connected, Tina, but somehow we do have mutual friends. So there has to be something. And maybe somebody shared yours. I don't know, but it's pretty cool when it happens.
I seek that stuff out too. When I see somebody on fire online, I'm like, ooh, what's going on there? What happened? What are they, like, I get really super curious about it, because I want to know what lights people up. I want the world to know what lights people up. So
well,
I probably, you say you stalked me. I probably stalked you first.
Oh, well, you're so like, oh my God. No, I did stalk you. Well, I didn't send you nasty messages. And in some ways I found myself overthinking and comparing again, and it's stupid. Don't do that.
It's so crazy. That's why I said it. There's no comparison. Like, when you find the right people, it's just the right people. And we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey, and it doesn't matter where we are. What matters is that we support each other along the way. So
right.
All right. Any like last thoughts or anything?
The book just released an ebook last night, so it's now available for those that like to read. I like to hold a real book. That's just me. I read too many books.
But now it's electronic, which is amazing. Is it your voice or no?
Yes. What was
that? Is it your voice? Is it your voice?
No, it's not. No, I don't have that one. No, not that kind. I probably could do that. Maybe I'll think about that. This is just the ebook. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get there step by step.
Step by step. It's so true. It's step by step for sure. Well, I want to thank you, Sheri, for being on today. Like I said, I noticed you just being on fire, being super authentic and super real. And I was like, ooh, who is she? And we need to know each other. So go buy her book. She's amazing. I think we all, once our kids leave the nest, it's definitely a transition, and I think everyone can benefit for the book. So thank you everyone for being here. We will see you next time on Our Leadership Legacy, or your leadership legacy. All right, bye.
My name is Tina Paulus Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.